Hi, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. So April is Autism Awareness Month. If you were unaware, I got my sweatshirt on for all my great kiddos out there. And so today I want to talk about another story, and this one of mine. Again, I learn a lot through the classes I'm taking, um, more in depth about being a teacher and both early childhood and SPED programs that I'm in, along with English as a second language. And one of the things that comes up is universal design for learning and the Swift model that schools tend to use. So today I want to talk about what my thoughts are kind of on that and some of my reflections on inclusion. So bear with me because this is kind of a soapbox moment for me. So growing up in the 1980s and the 1990s, yes, I'm dating myself, I had the privilege of attending what I would now call a truly inclusive school. Students with ability differences were a regular and visible part of our classroom. They were included in lessons, group activities, and school events. They were only occasionally pulled out, for example, to have a test read or to work on an assignment after the teacher finished a lesson. But otherwise, they were fully integrated into the learning environment. Their presence extended beyond academics into specials, assemblies, and extracurricular activities, even into high school. Inclusion was just how school worked, and it taught all of us, students, teachers, families, that learning and community are better when everyone is included. It's a novel concept. But fast forward, when my sons started school in the same district, I noticed a shift. By third grade in 2009, students with ability differences were largely absent from general classrooms, only appearing during specials or a few isolated activities. Mind you, I graduated high school in 2002. 7 years. 7 years difference. So by the time my oldest son was in 5th grade, his youngest two brothers had been diagnosed with MPS II. The separation of students with disabilities from their peers was heartbreaking. And not just for my sons, but for me as a parent and educator. Seeing the segregation of classmates made me reflect deeply on how inconsistent inclusive practices can be, even within the same district. This is why I'm so passionate about the Swift model of schooling. Swift stands for School-Wide Integrated Framework for Transformation. This puts inclusion at the heart of everything. In a Swift school, students with disabilities are fully engaged in the general education classroom, supported by teams of educators, specialists, and resources aligned to their needs. The school day is student-driven rather than clock-driven, and the supports are integrated, collaborative, and responsive. Everyone, students, teachers, families, they all work together to ensure that every learner can thrive. So imagine if all teachers were trained with this mindset, to assume confidence, to embrace universal design of learning, and to design lessons that are accessible and engaging for every student. The impact would be enormous. Students with disabilities would benefit from richer, more flexible learning opportunities. Classrooms would become spaces of collaboration, creativity, and shared responsibilities, where differentiation isn't an afterthought, but a natural part of teaching. Entire districts could shift towards equity-driven policies, seeing inclusion and accessibility not as optional, but essential. The ripple effect would be profound. Improving academic and social outcomes, strengthening communities, and creating schools where all students feel valued and empowered. If I could, I would implement the UDL strategies to meet diverse learning needs. During literacy instruction, students have multiple ways to engage with the text. Some listen to audiobooks, others follow along with picture cards, and some use adaptive books with simplified text. This would reflect the UDL guidelines for multiple means of representation, including checkpoint 1.2, where you would support multiple ways to perceive information, and checkpoint 2.5 that illustrates through multiple media. These strategies ensure that all students can access content meaningful and succeed alongside their peers. Of course, there are non-examples too. For instance, in math centers, students often complete worksheets to demonstrate understanding. While this works for some, it limits other learners, especially those with fine motor challenges or processing differences. Applying the UDL principles, such as use multiple media for communication and anticipate and plan for challenges, could allow students to use manipulatives, tablets, verbal explanations, or drawings to express learning. This flexibility creates more inclusive and opportunities. Now, again, this is what play-based learning is being taught to the new teachers coming out, to use more of drawings and expressive language versus just doing the numbers. I know many teachers use manipulatives, but sometimes there needs to be even steps further for some students. So accessibility is also centered to what I would practice. Tools like text-to-speech, closed captions, and adjustable video speeds benefit all learners, not just students with disabilities. Listening while reading and adjusting the video speed or using captions can improve comprehension, engagement, and focus. These strategies not only support students, but also model inclusive practices for educators. This reinforces the idea that accessibility is a universal benefit. All of this connects directly to what I would one day want to see, whether it's in my own learning center or in school systems. I would like to see a Swift model school where inclusion is embedded in every classroom and activity, where staff are experienced educational influencers instead of teachers, and where students with and without ability differences learn, play, and grow together. Teaching educators this mindset is a passion of mine because I've seen firsthand how transformative it can be, how it impacts individual students, the classroom culture, and it could do entire districts. Inclusion, accessibility, and equity are not just ideas. They are practices we can implement every day to empower every learner and transform schools from the inside out. I told you it was going to be a soapbox moment because I do feel like that this model could help multiple districts, because students shouldn't be left out in the cold because they're cross-capped and their gen ed teacher doesn't add them to the Valentine's Day list because they don't view them as a part of their classroom. And again, this isn't all teachers. These are just some of the things that I have seen. It never affected my boys. My boys had amazing teachers and amazing staff. but as an educator myself now, looking at it through my lens as both a parent and an educator, I can see the holes. And some of that falls on the parents too, because if a parent is not involved or pushing for inclusion, then that is a thing too. But I also feel like we've gotten so focused on testing and education that those learning ability different students get pushed out of the classrooms because we're focusing so much on the academics for the rest of the students in that class that we're forgetting the big part of teaching compassion and kindness and understanding that everybody learns differently. Nobody fits into a box, and it's not a one size fits all. The Swift model helps you be able to break that down more. And again, I feel like that if we looked at every student as an ability different student, it would change the mindset of all of us as teachers. And again, this is my opinion. This is my soapbox. And I just want to thank you for listening. And I want to remind you that every student has a voice. And the challenges and the joy is making sure every one of them is heard. Because no two are the same. Not even when they have the same disease or diagnosis. They aren't the same. So thank you for listening and have a great rest of your day.